Okay, welcome to HUGHROCKO interviews on location again. This week we have Paulo Cardoso,
Yeah.
awesome drummer, Portuguese man as well. So Paulo, I'm going to ask you some questions.
Yeah, shoot.
Right Paulo, who are your influences?
Right, influences. I have to start possibly going back to when I was about 15, 16. Back then it was a guy that was local to me. He lived in the same town that I grew up in. His name is Sertori Calado, and it used to be great to go into pubs,
Yeah.
see him play with the band. And at the time the stuff that he was doing for me was like, wow. Funnily enough, fast forwarding a few years, then I started getting into... I was always a bit odd because I don't think I had sort of like the musical upbringing that most people around here would have.
Yeah.
But then I started getting into a lot of drummers like Dave Weckl, Vinnie Colaiuta, Dennis Chambers,
Amazing.
Alex Acuna, Peter Erskine. So there was a lot of drummers from backgrounds that got nothing to do with, you know, the traditional rock
The guys
stuff.
are like drummers,
Yeah.
basically.
But saying this, even going back when I was 12, and I had every Metallica album, every Iron Maiden, so even Nico McBrain, and at the time a little bit of Lars, Dave Lombardo with Slayer back then.
Yeah.
So yeah, all of them sort of came in. But eventually, I don't know, nowadays I think that if I have to have a reference, it's definitely going to be Vinnie Colaiuta, because he's the guy for me that, if you look at his discography, he played with everyone, who's everyone in the music industry. And he plays for the song. The guy has the technical chops to you know, tear down a building.
Yeah.
But you listen to songs like If I Ever Lose My Faith in You with Sting, and it's very solid, just the bell and the snare and the kick. There's the old fill, a nice use of splash cymbals. But yeah, those are the sort of guys that I've always looked up to.
Amazing. I seen him doing a fill, you might have seen this a couple of months ago on YouTube, and it was just...
With a big band.
Oh yeah.
Yes, I saw that.
And they were like, how did he do that?
Even the engineer on the in the control room, he was like,
wow.
he just turned around because it was absolutely
It was just
amazing.
nothing. It was nothing to him.
But you look at his playing and it's just so effortless.
Yes.
It looks like, there you go.
Yeah, I've seen him with Jeff Beck as well.
Jeff Beck's absolutely amazing.
And
if you watch the
Tal. You know.
Tal Winkenfield on the bass, and if you watch the concert that they did at Ronnie Scott's in London, it's just to die for, because there are times that he's very chilled, laid back, and it's just, you know, putting that rhythm to support Jeff Beck, and then there are times that he just sort of like comes out and, you know, rips the floor with it. It's I would say main influence, definitely Vinnie.
Oh well, I would say that myself.
Well, it's that
Watching you
thing.
play myself, seeing you, that's what I would say.
It's that thing. I can stay here. We can stay here all night, and we're going to talk about guys from, you know, David Garibaldi with Tower of Power, from Peter Erskine, Alex Acuna, and Alex Acuna is funny because he's a percussionist, but he's also a drummer.
Yeah.
Akira Jimbo, Japanese guy, plays with Yamaha, and it's just where does that guy comes from? Because he plays everything himself. He can literally. He has so many sequence stuff on pads, and he is able to keep the beat going, but then do keyboards and all sorts of stuff that is going on.
Seems to be the new thing now. A lot of
well, he has been doing this, you know, for ages. I only started to get more now into electronics, especially for the last 2 years with the bands, because of the drum kit that we're using.
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, things are now starting to evolve, so there's a bit more electronics to come on to as well, but it's all good fun.
Okay, so that was that one. So who is your go-to band, you would say, that you're listening to right now?
Go-to band? Oh God.
Nowadays.
I think that there are the odd times that I will always go back to the likes of Jeff Beck, and I have the album, and if I just want to chill, you put that on, and you know, you can really absorb everything, because there's no vocals on it, it's just all instrumental.
Yeah, it's just what
but
you get.
Despite the fact that I'm a drummer, sometimes I'm listening to it and I'm not listening to Vinnie in this case. I'm actually listening especially to Jeff Beck, because he must be the most underrated guitar player that I've ever seen.
Oh yeah.
Because you can go to the likes of Steve Vai and Satriani's, and you know, there's a lot of notes, there's a lot of stuff going on, and then you have Jeff Beck that, you know, is playing just like that and making use of that and all the swells and everything. But how many tones, how many different sounds come out of that Stratocaster.
And
it's not like he has a massive floorboard or anything, but it's just the whole concept. It's great.
Yeah.
Other than that, Tower of Power. I will always go back to Tower of Power. If you want inspiration in terms of funk and getting some licks, and David Garibaldi is always one of the guys that I would go to. I'll always go back to Sting, especially some of the older Police stuff. Synchronicity Live, absolutely great album. And then there's, going back to some of the old rock stuff from, Guns N' Roses, always fun to listen to. Now, due to the band, I had to start listening to stuff that I used to listen to many, many moons ago, but then because my musical journey went into a completely different direction, I sort of left behind. So now I'm going to have to revisit all of that to, put back into the band as well. But I think that Tower of Power will always be there. Sting, Jeff Beck. And I love film soundtracks.
Yeah.
So from Star Wars to anything soundtrack, even The Lion King. Okay, I admit it. I hands up. But I do love Lion King.
Yeah.
So there's nothing wrong with that.
Nothing wrong with that.
There you go.
Great. Okay. So what gear are you using? As in drum ways?
Gear to.
Live gear.
I have a lot of gear. I have gear that I use live. I have gear that I use in the studio. Live at the moment, it's Roland TD50 through and through.
Amazing.
It's incredibly easy to get the sounds that we need, and the great thing is I do get the odd. Well, it's not a real drum kit, is it?
No.
And
that's what you all get.
Okay. The thing is, it's like me saying,
feels amazing.
An electric guitar isn't a real guitar, is it?
Well, you're right.
Because it's not an acoustic guitar. But the problem is, why should guitarists have so many little stump boxes, have so many, floor effect units, to give you, a completely, new palette of sound?
Yes.
Why can't drummers have that?
Well,
why would I have to, keep stuck with, just that acoustic kit?
And a mic.
Don't take me wrong, I still have two acoustic kits. I have one that was made for me, 8, 10, 12, 14 floor tom, 8, 10, 12, they're all suspended, with an 18 by 18 bass drum. And then I have a Mapex Armory 22 by 20 bass drum that I have. What is it? I think is 10, 7, 12, 8, 14, 12 and 16, 14.
I think you've seen that. It was nice.
Lovely kit, but most of the times, because of all the noise restrictions nowadays in the pub,
was that, always that.
It's that thing. Oh, can you play? It's too loud. All right, now try and play Poison, Alice Cooper. Try and play
Guns N' Roses.
Guns N' Roses. Try and play Black Sabbath. And try to.
No.
It is hard.
So
the great thing is, right, we're playing. I can still play within the same intensity. I can, give it the beats.
Which you need.
But we can just drop the volume. And it's fine. I have... It's great for me to have... We have a general sound that you use for most of the stuff.
Yeah.
Then I have this really, 80s rock sound with, a lot of reverb on the toms, gated reverb on the snare and everything. I have another one just for Metallica, so that really thumpy, dull, bass drum that Lars uses. With really deep toms, so I have access to all that. At a push of a button, it's there. I don't have to worry. And people like that. I have a lot of people that go, oh, the drums sound great, and the changes. It sounds like the original. And for me, that's the main thing. Why should you, as a guitar player, be able to have access to that to get close to their sound? Why shouldn't I have the same opportunity?
You should.
So TD50 Roland mainly. Now we've brought in an SPDSX, so it's a sampling pad. A lot of people are using it nowadays. Michael Shack, great drummer, Roland's product specialist and demonstrator. He uses one a lot. Craig Wendell, another super drummer. He also uses a lot of triggers, Roland triggers, and SPDSX. And it's that thing. So get access to stuff. I saw the video that you've done with Martin, and he's using the Yamaha DTX M12, and it's great. Like he was saying, I can go from this, and then all of a sudden he's playing more pop stuff with more electronic stuff, and it's right there.
It's right there.
You know, and that's the beauty of it. We can swap stuff around now without having to worry, and people enjoy that.
Yeah, and
because
sounding.
Yeah, as long as the sound is there and it sounds great and everything goes balanced through the PA, happy days.
It is.
But yeah, I have that. I have about 6 snare drums at the moment, from 13x7. 2 13x7s. I have a 14x4, 14x5.5. I have 2 14x5s. I have a 14x4 and a 10x5. So yeah, there's quite a few lying about. All sorts of brands from. I have an old Premier now. No, Remo. Sorry.
Remo.
A Remo Piccolo. Amazing crack on that brass shell. Great. I have Tama Superstar Hyperdrive, which is 14x5.5, great snare. I have a Gretsch 13x7. There's a few mapex snares in there. I have a Yamaha, which is 10x5. That's like an effect snare that I can just use on the side. And the great thing about now using the Roland TD50 is the fact that I can come into the studio, set up all the mics, just record all the snares, all the drums, and then upload that onto the TD50, and I can still use either just the acoustic stuff on the TD50, or you can layer the sound. So I have, let's say, an electronic sound that's already there, and then I can bring up the acoustic one, level them up, and again, it's another way of, having more sounds and access to more stuff. Definitely. That, if you just have an acoustic kit, you're not going to get.
No.
It's that simple. So in this way, it's a bit of the best of both worlds, and the great thing is that I don't have to worry about being noisy.
No,
I can still play, and if someone says, "Oh, can you drop it down?" Because then the whole band comes down. No one has to worry about it. So as the master comes down, the band is still all nicely leveled. People still enjoy it, and happy days.
Happy days.
So in that respect, and then studio-wise, plenty of microphones. Christ, I could go in.
Forever.
Yeah, there's plenty of stuff in there, from condensers to large condensers, tube mics.
Did you say Neumann there?
No. Reason being is I don't. For me to have a Neumann, it would have to be a U87, and the U87 unfortunately is too expensive. But there are mics out there nowadays that you can get an amazing sound. I have a particular mic, it's called the Aston Spirit, made in the UK. It's a completely different microphone from any other condenser mic out there. They redesigned everything. The way that they went about it, instead of just saying, this is the mic, see if you like it, they gathered a group of 33 artists, producers and engineers in the UK, all top quality people. Great. They send several different capsule designs for them to try. And then their feedback, they started dropping the capsules. And eventually they end up with some of them. And it's great. I've heard blind tests, blind listening tests between, let's say, the Spirit and some other well-known microphones. And a lot of the times people were actually preferring that one. And we're talking a mic that costs about £400. So it's not too bad. And it gives you the quality. But then again, a lot of the times, I've heard a lot of people having really expensive gear and the results. And then I've heard people just, recording stuff with SM57 and 58s and getting great results. So it's all about knowing the equipment. But if you start learning on, really, basic equipment, if you can know your equipment, make things sound properly, as long as they sound good, great. Because that way, when you get really expensive gear, you already know your skills, and then you just step up the game a little bit. But yeah, so kits, acoustic, mapex. I have another one. It doesn't have a specific brand because it was made for me. Then I have the TD50, and I still have, which you've seen, that very old Yamaha DT Express 3 Special, which is still in there. I don't know what's going to happen. Sometime I might take it home and use it to practice.
You still had the moment of madness a few years back when you got rid of that pedal.
I did.
You should have never come.
Now, I have to say, it's the only regret that I have in my life is the fact that I sold my dear Pearl Masters Custom. It was a Masters MMX, so the very first incarnation of the Masters Custom.
What a kit.
It was great, 8, 10, 12, 14, all suspended toms, 20 bass drum, and it just sounded great.
Oh, it did.
And I just decided, I need something new. And I sold that one, and I regret that.
Yeah, I think we've all done that. We've all done that.
Yeah.
Sold
so, but hey,
yeah.
You know, win some, lose some.
Right, so how did you land the gig with Insanity Beach?
Funnily enough, it started because I was playing with Nobody's Heroes at the time.
Yeah.
And apparently Ian had a very exceptional night off. I was playing at the Grange in Morton, and that's when Ian saw me for the first time. So it was one of those. He saw me. He then sent me a message on Facebook saying, just saw you play, congratulations, really enjoyed the playing, because it was just me, Mark and Pete. And eventually, Gary, which was the drummer that replaced the late Chrissy Hooker, bless his soul, Gary went on holiday to Florida. I think it was 2 weeks. So Ian invited me to fill in for Gary while he was away. And I said, yeah, okay. I wasn't playing that much at the time. So I said, right. So filled in those dates. After that, Gary apparently decided to leave to do other stuff. And there was an audition process. So I went to audition, other people went to audition, and eventually I didn't get it. And it gets to that point that you're like, okay, what happened? Have I done enough? Have I not done enough? Have I did too much? Because sometimes it's easy to get excited and just play all over the place.
Oh, yeah.
But, got over that one. I was still playing with Nobody's Heroes at the time, although very sporadically because Pete was also doing other things because he's seriously into his filming and stuff, and he's really good at what he does. And eventually I got another call from Ian saying, mate, Dave, which was the guy that replaced it, he can't do this gig, would you mind? I said, okay, I'm not playing, so I do that one. And then that one turned into another one that he couldn't do, and then another one, and eventually I think that Dave decided to leave, and Ian, one time I got a call from Ian and said, what's up, you alright? He said, mate, this just happened, we don't have a drummer now, so if you wanted the job, is yours. And I said, okay. And ever since been now 3 years. 3 years. 3 years that I've been with them.
Here.
It's back.
It's back.
3 years now that I've been with them. It's a very privileged position to be in.
Yeah.
Because in previous bands, although we played regularly, but you always have to go out and look for the gigs.
Yeah. Well,
right now, being in Insanity Beach, just a couple of weeks ago, Ian just said, that's it. We have no more dates for next year. So everything is fully booked. So it is a very privileged position to be in, in a band that doesn't have to worry about everything is booked in advance. We know exactly what we're going to do. And, and it's great. There has been, ups and downs. We've slowed down slightly now on doing some of the original stuff, which we were working prior to Christmas last year. But it's on the cards now to go back to doing that. We have the space to do so. We have the studio, we have all the gear in. So it's getting back into it, getting everyone together. Same frame of mind. Ian has a ton of material for us to start working on. So that's pretty much how it's going.
And okay, so have you ever backed up big names?
We did.
Supported.
We did. Was an absolute privilege, especially because it was his last gig, but I supported. Basically, Ian and Insanity Beach, they had already supported Status Quo, but we did Status Quo at Tranmere Rovers here in Birkenhead, and it was great. Yeah. The Christians were also on the table. We opened up the whole thing. It was great, and
I heard the sound. I seen the video. I didn't go, but I seen the video, and it sounded amazing.
It was great. It sounded great. We had a few issues in terms of sound on stage, but we pulled through.
Out front was
out front apparently was great. We pulled it through, and it was just the thing that I think was the following week or 2 weeks after that the news came that unfortunately. One of them passed away. So we were lucky to actually do that gig, and it was pretty much his last gig with Status Quo.
Yeah.
Other than that, back home, I did support quite a lot of local artists or national artists in there. I did also a lot of TV shows back. Even the Portuguese version of Stars in Your Eyes that you had in here. It was all playback, you know what I mean? The sound's just coming in, you're just there, and pretending that you're playing. But we did that. Did a lot of live TV shows as well that you actually have to get in there. It's a big band and you have to read stuff. And it's like, okay.
Nope.
So all of that, that's why I say my musical journey was different. I started learning music at the age 6.
Yeah.
My first instrument was flute. Then I moved on to flugelhorn. Then I moved on to trombone stroke euphonium, which is like a miniature tuba.
And you don't play any of them today, or?
No. And then I got 2 kidney surgeries. I couldn't, because I learned music in a woodwind stroke brass marching stroke concert band. The only thing in there that you didn't have to blow into was drums and percussion. So after the doctor told me you can't, blow into any instruments, I said great. So the only thing available was drums and percussion. I said, all right. And I remember I was about 11, going to see the drummer at the time, and I said, that's me here now. Hey. I said, hey, okay. And the guy was playing, and it was the thing that he was playing traditional grip. So he was playing, and I saw the guy doing one thing with one hand, another thing with another hand, one thing with one, and I was like, oh my God, what's happening there? But the funny thing was, somehow I got on with it.
You just do it,
And I was like, right, I think I may be able to do this. And because of that, because the percussion section, you have bass drum, you have cymbals, you had xylophones, maracas, triangles, timpani. So all of a sudden I was playing all of those things, and you needed to, to read the scores and stuff. And there was drum set as well, so there were times I was just playing drum set. A lot of the times, symphonic pieces, I had to play just snare drum, let's say.
Yeah.
So I decided, okay, I'm going to get classically trained. So I went on to the music conservatory in the National Music Conservatory of Music in Lisbon, and I was being classically trained. So timpani, vibraphone, marimba, xylophone, the whole works. I played in a symphony orchestra, but at the time I lacked one thing: discipline. Because if you're with a symphony orchestra, I was very young, and I was starting to get into drums and Latin percussion, congas, bongos, and timbales and all sorts. So if you are within an orchestra and you have that score, you have a conductor and you have another, 60, 70, 80, 90 people, if you play 10 shows in a row, you have to play the exact same notes with the exact same intensity in the exact same place. Yeah. And I was like, and I just wanted to play. Boom. So I did it for a while, and then I dropped it. A few years later, I was invited by a friend of mine that I used to play with in a brass quintet. He was a conductor for that orchestra then, and he invited me to go back. So I had other stunts of going in and out again, which I enjoyed. But even at that time, I knew I couldn't stay there. No. So my thing was drums, because even on a big band, if you have a big band chart, yes, you do have the chart, but it's almost like you can almost look at it as a roadmap. Yeah. And a lot of the times, one of the things that a lot of the arrangements have is fill, and the fill can be a whole bar, can be 2 bars, can be one part of the bar. Let's say that the last 2 counts of the bar, 2 and 4, or 2, 3, 4, or just 4, because all you need to do is fill in that section to bring up something else. Sometimes it's a horn section that is coming up, and the fill is not laid out for you, so you have to be creative, and you have to. This is where then the other thing, you have to have taste. Yeah. It's easy to just do whatever, but does it fit in? And that's one of the things that all of a sudden I learned throughout the years, because at one point I just wanted, and I just wanted to do as much as possible in that short period of time, and it wasn't always the right thing. No. But that, it grows with you throughout the years,
Yeah.
because the more you grow, the more mature you get, the more understanding you start getting, the more experience you start getting, and then eventually, you sort of like you settle down, and now you know, okay, in here I can go mental, on that section, you know, light it up a bit, because sometimes you just need something just to make that little difference, or to support someone, and that was basically the main thing. And because I moved from, you know, a brass quintet, that was my first gig ever. 15 years old, the guys had to come to my house to pick me up. I was 15. That's when I started playing professionally, making money out of it. I was like, wow. But the guys had to come to my mum and dad's house to pick me up. And it was great. So I was with guys that were already in their mid-20s to 30s. I was the kid at the time. And my first ever gig was in Portimão in the Algarve. A massive open stage in a massive square, and there must have been there about 6,000 people. And I was like, oh my God, you know, very inexperienced. And eventually that's when I started looking at, you know, seeing things, and I'm like, okay, what am I going to do here? I have to, you know, concentrate. And a lot of the times I just closed my eyes or just looked at the score, trying to be, you know, just oblivion to everything else that was around. But even to this day, there are times in which, you know, status quo gig, but when I got on stage and you see all that people, and it's like, okay, it's important because, you know, it's status quo at the end of the day. Christians were also there, and you don't want to, you know, fall on your backside. No. You want to make sure that you're going to make yourself look good, you're going to make the band look good more than anything, and let's do this. I was still, you know, but then, right, take a deep breath, here we go. It's that thing, once the first couple of bars go in,
away.
Right,
you're away. You're just on mode.
Exactly. But I've gone through that, which was, it was a brass quintet, 2 trumpets, French horn, trombone and tuba, and then drums and percussion. So I had a very small drum kit, 2 toms, ride, 2 crashes, snare, kick, and then I had a set of congas on my side and some bongos and, you know, cowbells and all sorts. And all we did was some bossa nova, some cha-cha-chas, a lot of Dixieland, ragtime, and it was great. But I was 15. And most of the other 15 guys that were out there, or that were learning music, you know, they were all, let's say, if you were learning guitar at 15, you weren't learning Dixieland, you were learning rock stuff. So that's how my journey began. So it was already very out of the beaten track.
It was away.
But then I went on to pop rock, you know, a bit of funk, R&B, soul, Motown. Did musical theatre as well, which was great. Symphony orchestra, another different experience. And then I landed playing with a Brazilian band. And it's funny because all of a sudden, the bossa nova that you learn from a drum book, you realise it's got nothing to do with actually playing bossa nova. And I was like, okay. So that was another eye-opener. Then I moved on to playing in a Cuban band, playing salsa and mambos and all sorts. The musical director, bass player, but he was Cuban. And it's like in Cuba, everyone learns how to play percussion, despite playing pianos or bass, anything. But they all know that foundation. And again, I thought, you know, book.
No.
And he said, whoa. And he used to stop, said, no, in here, I just want you to do this. And eventually you learn that you need to listen to the tumbao that the piano's playing. And your main goal is to... And that goom just comes every now and again. If you look at a book, most of them it's... And it wasn't. So there are a lot of tricks within Latin music that all of a sudden you're like, okay. And then reading charting Latin music, because all of a sudden you start, let's say, on the verse. You have the intro, you go to a verse, and then it goes to what they call mambo, which is like the chorus section. And he can just call that at any time. All you have is, this is, you know, the progression for, let's say, the verse. This is going to be your chorus section, and this is going to be like a bit. But then you can repeat that over and over. Depends on the reaction of the audience, depends on a lot of things, and he can just call it at any given time, and you know that you need to move over. So that was another eye-opener. And then eventually I left all that, and I was playing 7 nights a week back home, 2.5 years. It was ridiculous. 11 o'clock at night until 3 o'clock in the morning.
Oh.
And then I said I need to move, and that's eventually when I came to the UK. And then I got back to, the traditional rock stuff, and have been doing it so far.
Brilliant.
So it hasn't been too bad.
No, well, obviously. still going. Okay. So have you got any, this is the funny, any funny stories?
Oh, mate. I have quite a few. A lot of them X-rated.
Yeah, bet you.
But, it's, I don't know, there's always something that happens from, just you dropping a stick without even knowing how, to, there was one, I remember, this wasn't too long ago, TD50.
This is here.
This wasn't here. And all of a sudden, we get to a gig, in Wales, St Asaph.
All right.
So we get there, and we have a gig the night before, or the week before, with the acoustic kit. I think we went to Liscard, to Stanley's Cask, and we took the acoustic kit. So my hi-hat stand and the snare stand were in my hardware bag. I forgot to take them out to take with the Roland. So we got there, and I'm setting everything up, and I asked Ian, dude, has anyone brought the hi-hat stand and the snare stand in? And Ian said, there's nothing left in the van. And then all of a sudden it clicked. And I said, oh dear Lord, I forgot about it. So luckily, this is the thing that comes with experience, knowing your gear, which is very important. I had to rearrange, because on the TD50, the layout, I have a cymbal pad in there that I use has a closed hi-hat or a stack.
Yeah.
So I moved that to this side. Then I took one of the toms and I set it up in the most bizarre fashion in the rack. Rearranged all the cabling, rerouted everything inside the module so that I could have a hi-hat and the snare. The problem was then that I didn't have a hi-hat controller pedal.
Oh no.
So the hi-hat was either closed or open. I said,
one or the other.
And then, again, another light bulb moment. I said, ooh, wait up. It's dual trigger, so I can actually have one sound there and another one there. So I spent all night concentrating like there was no tomorrow to have the closed hi-hat and the open hi-hat.
Oh no.
To get it all sorted. Somehow we got to the end of the gig.
Yeah.
But it was one of those. Another one, a place that I now know, in Buckley. Every time we go there, we are literally fed brandies and coke.
Oh.
But it's like that much brandy and that little bit of coke.
Yeah.
So me got in from work. Oh God, I'm a bit late. Yeah, I'm not hungry, so I didn't have anything to eat. Mate, I went. We got there. It was brandy and coke after brandy and coke, and we were playing, and we had a great night. At the end of the night, there is a video. There's proof of this. There's evidence. Kanye, our bass player, recorded it, and I was. It was. We finished the gig, take everything down. I was still feeling fine. It was boiling inside, but I was feeling fine. Go outside with a drink, and as soon as the cold air hit me, I was like, oh. And he has a video. They're calling me to the van, and I'm like, hey. And without realizing what I was doing, I actually took a step backwards, and I was like, whoa. I got into the van. This was our old van, and from Buckley in North Wales to Birkenhead on a rainy night, my head was outside the window throwing my guts off.
Oh no.
So yeah, that was the worst that I had in here so far. But I learned my lesson. Every time that we go and play there now, I always eat properly so that it soaks in.
Oh,
and never happened again.
Definitely.
So it was one of those that I was just, oh God. But and then let's just say that I was carried from the parking lot, from the car park where they dropped me, to the house, and bless Ian and James just dropped me on the living room couch, and I just stayed there until the next day.
Mother.
It was the most bizarre thing ever, but it was fun. It will never happen again. But yeah, it's it was one of those nights, but all fun and games, to be honest with you.
Okay.
What can we say?
So I think we've come to the last question, which is what inspires you to keep going, keep playing today?
The fact that I can still have fun.
Yeah.
I've always said, if there comes a time in which I'm not having fun anymore, if I ever feel that I'm doing it because I just want the money, that's the day that I'm going to say enough's enough.
Yeah.
So far, there are nights that, it's really hard, I'm really tired from work, or like Saturday night we had a great gig in Chester, and I already wasn't feeling too well, massive cold coming up, and it was absolutely boiling inside. I was sweating through every pore. I was absolutely breathless by the time we got to the end of it, but it's the thrill that you still, the kick that you still get out of it. Once your adrenaline kicks in, that's it. Sometimes you get to places and you can always spot them. When you start to play or you're just warming up and you have those guys just looking at you. And you can tell he's either a musician or he's a drummer. And he's checking you out. But sometimes I look at it and you feel a bit uptight, but I say, never mind. And as soon as we all start playing, again, going back, all the nerves go, it doesn't matter. You just job, have fun, and especially make sure that everyone else has fun. As long as we can still do that, as long as I can still enjoy myself, as long as I still have fun with the guys, that's the main thing. Regardless of who am I playing with, it doesn't matter if it is a symphony orchestra, if it is a big band, if it is a trio, a duo, if I'm playing a cajon, if I'm playing a kit. It does, as long as I'm enjoying it, happy days. If I feel, a lot of the times, I do have a great kick just coming to the studio and do some recording. Or one thing that I started doing, I haven't finished yet, which is exactly sampling everything, recording all that mapex drum kit, one tom at a time.
By one,
all the snares, get the kick, and then mix everything. Because that's the other thing that I started getting into is, I've done it years ago and then it stopped, and then now it came back because we have the space to do so, which is the production side of it, the mixing side of it, and making sure that everything sounds to the best it can possibly sound. That's why the electronics now are great, because we can bring a lot of stuff in, we can tweak everything that we want in the studio. Now we're happy with the sound, save it, stick import it onto the module, off you go, and it's there. And as long as we can carry on having fun, that's it. I don't want to do anything just for the money.
No.
Because for that, I already have a day job, you know what I mean? So I think that playing is... There was a documentary very recently on Sky Arts. Steve White, great drummer, another UK massive drummer, Paul Weller and Family Silver as well. And he did this documentary called The Art of Drumming. And one of the questions that he placed was, what made you want to drum? And Hannah was watching it with me, and she asked me the question, and I could pinpoint, and it was that moment that I was in that bar watching that very first guy that was my main reference, and that was it. And at the end of the day, that's the thing. And every time that I go out to play, it's like I'm in my own world. Regardless of any problems that you may have in life, whatever's going on, it doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. It's just that. And I've gone through experiences in my life, from losing my mum to losing a son as well. And what really helps me to sometimes just, put that... It's not that you're going to forget about it, but it's just for that, let's say, hour and a half of your life, you can just put it aside and not think about it. So that keeps me going. Having fun keeps me going, and not having to think about the money. So that's the main thing. And then awesome. All the musicianship and the camaraderie between and the banter, and that's what makes it worth. And the trips in the van to the gigs and coming from the gigs,
fun.
That's always the main thing for me. And that will always keep me going. Hopefully. At almost 43, but hopefully I'll carry on for another 10 years or so.
Sure you will.
Right.
Or more.
Or more, fingers crossed.
Well, thanks for letting me in.
No problem. Very welcome.
Okay, folks, Paulo Cardoso. You've heard it all. So, until the next time, we'll see HUGHROCKO interviews on location. Take care.
Take care, guys.
Ta-ra.